Hello. I don't know why there's a Twitch logo instead of the chat. I don't know how to fix that. Refresh cache of current page. Wait. Oh. Hey. I did it. I figured it out. I am the IT man. Okay, let's... Here we go. Okay. Thanks, Raham. I actually went to the gym twice a day for the entirety of this week. And my body hates me, and I hate it. I guess I should open FL Studio. And put it to... Oh, it's already... Okay, cool. Let's do... production feedback stream. Cool. Was it pull today? Honestly, today I kind of just did a hodgepodge of things, mostly triceps. I feel like I don't make my triceps hurt enough. So am I a mouth breather? No. I'm very aware of how I'm breathing and which kind of orifice on my face is being used. Maybe too aware, actually. So I always make sure that however I'm breathing in public is the least audible as possible. I feel like it's just kind of like basic human decency. Okay, let's oh, I was supposed to do this before I started the stream, but here we are. Dropbox. I need to find the folder file. Catalog, Fowler, weekly production feedbacks, submissions. We're getting there. May 15th. Excellent. And okay. Have you been making any music lately? A little bit. Not really like songs per se, but I've been writing some stuff for like content for my business. I've been writing a bit of music for CTV. Actually, I'll show you. I think it's this one. This is the funny thing with CTV. I feel like I need more light. One sec. That is perfectly janky. Wow, look at the additional photons that are bouncing off of my face now. Yeah, no, this is the kind of music that I write for CTV. It kind of has to be cheesy. Like that. Like that's exactly what they want. Just like upbeat, cheese. What was the thing on Snap? Probably that. I don't know. I mean, I make a bunch of those tracks. I'm embracing the cheese. Yes, that's what I do. That's basically when I work for CTV, that's my job, is to embrace the cheese and potentially the generic. Lean into the tropes of the type of music that they've hired me to make. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just kind of like, that's just what TV music is. It can't be too interesting. And it has to be upbeat and happy. And everybody is just so happy to hear the news about, you know, Katy Perry or whatever, because that's typically what my tracks are used for. Not Katy Perry specifically, but, you know, like celebrity stuff. Okay, anyway, let's see what you guys have been working on. Why? Sorry, I'm struggling with basic tasks today, apparently. Like remembering, oh, that is certainly not what I wanted to do. If you hold D and you right click like this, you can easily delete all of the tracks. And then reload them in. Windows sound. Okay, cool. Let's start off with this one, which looks to be aggressive, potentially, based on the waveform. Oopsies. This one's called Ice Kayab, cool thingy that I don't have a fucking name for. That is a name in itself, isn't it? Okay, I like the freeform jazz of it, I guess, but it's maybe a little too freeform for me. I'm like wondering. I'm trying to pick up on a theme or something that's kind of repeating. I'm hearing a dun 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 dun. Like I guess that's kind of repeating, but then that seems like the call, and the response seems like a complicated paragraph that I can't memorize. I'm not sure if maybe just making it less loud could be beneficial. I'm not sure why this style of music is all bricked up, you know? I just don't really like this musically. I can appreciate the jazziness of it, but I'm just like I'm not drawn to it melodically or harmonically. I'm not sure really what the melody is and how it relates to the chords. I'm trying. I don't want to be overly harsh or anything, but like at the same time, I'm just. I'm just not following it melodically. I don't know how else to explain this. From a technical standpoint, I would say this would benefit from being much quieter because, like, we're definitely not mixing this into a dubstep DJ set, right? But there's just, yeah, the harmonies, the chords, like the melody by itself might be okay. It's maybe the complexity of the chords underneath of it and the harmonies that are based off of those chords. There's just something that I'm just like, I just can't get into. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, it's maybe just a bit too freeform for me. Um, the rhythm of the melody is cool, da 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 da. But there's just a certain amount of kind of tension that doesn't feel like it's ever resolved or something. And I think the chords move like maybe if it was like a chord that was like da and then dun 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 dun, you know, maybe if the chords weren't kind of, it almost is like the chord progression is chords based off of every note in the melody. So it's like the chords are changing, dum bum bum ba ba ba, and it's hard for me to follow because of that. Everyone's trying to solo their part. That's funny. Um, yeah, I agree with the fact that it sounds like Mario Kart. I wonder if that's just the brass that's kind of going, "Brow," like the slide on the, or like the portamento or whatever on the brass. I feel like that is very Mario Kart, but yeah, the melody is kind of that way too. I would maybe just try simplifying the chord progression, because to me it just doesn't really build and release tension at all. It just kind of is like moving around with the melody too much. And I feel like we might need like a bit of anchoring. And the anchoring could be a more simplistic chord progression potentially. So you could still have like a complex melody on top of it, but as long as there's something for us to, like hold on to while the melody's going around doing crazy stuff, then I think that might help a lot. But besides that, I would strongly suggest for this style of music that you don't mix and master it to the point where it's all bricked up like that, because it just doesn't make sense for the style. And that's what I got. Okay, this one's called a chord submission, Connection Undone. Okay, I like this so far. I think that the vocal thing there at like the 3 kilohertz is very aggressively harsh. I would go, I understand the idea of having it sound kind of like radio, like it's on a radio. But maybe just go in and try to pull out some of that frequency out of the vocal itself. You know what I mean? And because I don't think it needs to be that aggressively harsh to sound like it's coming through an EQ. I'm not going to try to fix it in the master bus with like a dynamic EQ or anything. I don't think he needs to use a dynamic EQ. I think that frequency range is just too loud. I think that just dipping that 3K down, probably like turn it up to the point where it's almost too loud to listen to, and then mix that frequency range based on how much blood is coming out of your ears or something.
Абонент временно недоступен. Перезвоните позже. The subscriber is not available now. Please call back.
Wow. Yeah, this is very unmistakably chord. The biggest thing I think is the harshness of the vocal thing that's in there. I like it. I like what it's doing. I like it in the track, but if it just was there a little less aggressively in that frequency range, like you can see how bright that lights up that harsh range there. I think that would be better. Another thing that I would maybe try is, you see how like loud your kick drum is compared to the rest of the track? What would happen if you just brought that kick, and it might also be no, I think it's just the kick. Yeah, what if you brought your kick drum down so that like it was more in line with maybe like this volume, you know what I mean? Because I feel like there's just too much dynamic range in this. I think if your kick peaks were kind of like that, oh, I'm stuck on. Interesting. Then all of a sudden you have all this extra headroom that you've gained with zero downside. So I'd probably reduce the kick drum volume and then increase everything else. Yeah, you can still submit. You just got to go to Discord and don't listen to anybody about using commands because none of them work. So, yeah. But yeah, I would. I don't mind. I don't mind dynamics, but I just think that the kick drum is just too loud, and there's no need for there to be this amount of, difference between the peak on the kick drum and the rest of the song. I think that you probably could just reduce it by like 4 or 5 decibels and then gain 4 or 5 decibels of overall volume at no loss, no cost, no downside, just win-win. How We Win by Fowler is a song that's on Spotify that you can listen to right now, but I wouldn't recommend it. Okay. Yes, we're moving on. Pluribus is my sound design thing. Alternative vibe. Idea is rough for placeholder. Mid tune or samples a brick. Also kick. Also that type of kick, very quiet when being very new. Yeah, I think it's because you have the kick is very low frequency. It's very, like, you can see how low frequency it is, and it's very short. It's like, well, I think it's about two cycles of maybe 60, 70 hertz or something like that, right? So, yeah, it's kind of funny because it's deceptive. When you listen to it, it doesn't even sound that loud because it's just two cycles of very low frequency. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a problem, because it kind of fits the weird vibe of the track. But I do just think that it's just peaking higher than it needs to be. It's going to be hard to get this track any louder than it currently is without having obvious compression artifacts based on every time that kick hits. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the Pluribus. That reminds me of that video game that never existed. What's that called? Polybus? There's a video on the internet. What the hell is that? It's by that YouTuber that I like. What is it? Polybus? Pluribus? Polybius. Polybius. Yeah, this one is an urban legend around a mysterious arcade game. Anyway, okay. Let's have a listen. To address what Cheese said, he thought the kick was okay. I think the kick sounds okay. I don't have an issue with the sound of the kick, but the difference in amplitude of the kick and the rest of the track was to the point where if he tried to make the track any louder, you're going to have a challenge in the master bus. So if you brought the kick down and everything back up so that the kick is still the same volume as it was in there, but everything else is louder in comparison, then it's just going to be an easier track to master and to get it to a decent level. Yes, the Ahoy video. That's the one I was thinking of. Okay, anyway, let's have a listen. I mean, like from a sound design point of view, this is very cool. And a groove point of view, very cool, very groovy. What I think this could use, and you kind of solved one of the problems in the second half. The sub bass in this is very like atonal. Like it's not playing notes per se. And that's okay. But I think that maybe if you know how you go like you do have like a stab, like a bam, and then it goes blah 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 blah. What if in the stab or like every so often there was a sustained bang to like indicate what key the song is in with the bass? So, you know, you can still keep your complex kind of, that's kind of what that's what the bass is doing. It's kind of garbling. But if you had like a da, or every once in a while you had like a sustained deep bass like note that we could hear, I think that would probably work better. The layer is a drum layer in a processing. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I don't have the latest version of FL Studio now. I have a pretty old one. I don't even know which one. Let's see. 20.9.2. Anyway. So once we got to the second half, then all of a sudden I start hearing da na 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 na, like I can hear like a bass, like a note. So you got the groove down, you got the sound design and the texturing. That's all very cool. But now I think you need to focus on making this a song, something that's memorable. You kind of have a good, like I like your stab at the start. But you need an element that is neither a bass nor drums nor crunchy, crispy atmosphere crunch texture. You need something that we can hum along to, or it needs a, you know, or something, you know, like something. You have a call, but I don't hear a response. Like that stab at the start of every whatever bars, 8 bars or whatever, that stab is the call, but there's nothing answering it. It's just a call out into nothingness, and we don't have a response until the next call. So I think now I would probably start focusing on creating a song. But I understand where you're at with it. You were doing some production experimentation. You were doing some sound design. You're like, fuck, this is groovy. And that's great because sometimes it's very difficult to achieve something with the right groove and texture, but now you have to make it a song. So I probably would make it a song before I did any more sort of production on it. Is there any melody in this like disco kind of thing? Not really, but to me, that's kind of maybe where you find something, or you go with some weird kind of squeaky descending sound that lands back on the call like what I had done with my voice. Or something like that. Anyway, cool. I do really like the sound of it. I like the groove and the texture. Make it a song and then make $1 trillion. Okay, this one's called POV, You Are Failing Your Math Exam Final. I mean, I think this is pretty cool. It definitely gives me like, oh shit, I'm running out of time and I don't remember how to do a quadratic equation vibe. So I think you definitely nailed it with that. What I think is maybe a little bit overdone is the overall compression on the track. Again, this is one of those situations like we don't need this to be a brick. There's really no reason. And I can hear quite a bit of compressor pumping and compressor like violence, I guess, disturbance, disputing. I can hear the compressor not happy. Especially like when that crash hits, you can really hear you can hear the compressor doing things. Where do you have to send your music? I wonder if there's anything on the screen that you're looking at right now that would indicate where you could submit your track. I mean, I wonder if there's something on the screen that may indicate the place in which you should submit your track. I'm being a bit of a dick, but anyway. Yeah, that's all I would say for this. I think that this one is very good. And okay, when you first go to the Discord server, you should have like it should take you to the thing with the instructions on it. But if it didn't for some reason, then go to feedback stream and go to feedback stream May 15th, and then you can throw it in here. I don't know if you can see any of this, but I don't know what else to say. Yeah, this I just think there's just too much compression. Too many compressions happening, and I think the track would just be overall better if it had room to breathe, like kind of like a cinematic soundtrack, you know? I take any genre at all, anything at all. I'll listen to it and I'll tell you what I think. And no guarantees that my opinion will be correct or valuable, but I will for sure give it to you. Okay, that's what I think. I think it's cool. Lessen off on the compression and let the track breathe a little bit. Okay, this one's called Rayhem Futility. Dude, this sounds like the strings sound like Super Mario World when you're in like a castle or something. So I will say that up until that part right there, the ding 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 ding, whatever that melody is, I thought all the instruments were fairly convincing. I wasn't like, this sounds like MIDI. But as soon as that part happened, I was like, this sounds like MIDI. But besides that, I liked it. The rest of it is fucking pretty good, actually. I don't know if you're planning on doing, like, having something here, or if this is just a little 1-minute piece of kind of Tim Burton. It gives me Tim Burton vibes, like, you know what I mean? Like Nightmare Before Christmas or something. That's what this is. That's what vibe this is giving me. If that's what you're going for, then you have succeeded, at least in me. Interesting file name, a bunch of periods.mp3. You can see the tag on Wave Candy, okay? It's trying to save this file as just mp3. So I'm going to do your name, smocks.mp3. Yeah, besides just that one little section where I thought you were playing this, it was like you were playing the strings as though they were going to play long notes. But then you play short notes on it. So it's maybe you need to change the articulation on, I don't know if you're using like a contact library or something like that, but maybe like maybe if you switch to staccato for that, dun 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 dun. Maybe that would be more, because you're playing quick succession notes, but the notes are kind of fading in. So I don't know. Okay, this one is called "Say My Name." Is this a Walter White reference?
Say my name, say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make me wait. Say my name, say my name, say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make me wait. Say my name, no more games, I can't take it. Say my name, say my name, no more games.
I probably have like some subtle shaker doing 16th notes like here to kind of pick up the pace.
No more games, I can't take it. Say my name.
Oh, I deleted the entire song.
Say my name. No more games, I can't take it. Say my name. Say my name. Say my name. Say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make me wait. Say my name. Say my name. Say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make.
What would it be like? Now, I don't necessarily mind the way it is, but what would it be like if we got a small section without the vocal?
Say my name. Say my name.
Or say my name and then like maybe cut it up or something. Just like, I don't know. We kind of have nonstop vocal doing a very similar, I don't know how many different lines there are here, but like, I'm just wondering if it built up a little stronger, it dropped a little harder, and it was say my name, aim, or some, I don't know, some sort of cut up thing to get away from the vocal so that when you bring it back later on, because to me, this sounds like the second half of a drop.
Say my name, it's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make me wait. Say my name, say my name, say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make me wait. Say my name, say my name, say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make me wait. Say my name, say my name, say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make me wait. Say my name, come and save me from breaking.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd give it a shot because I think that you probably could gain, like, the vocal doesn't annoy me as much as it seems to be annoying Swiss cheese. But I do think that getting away from it a little bit so that we can kind of enjoy the groove of the track and gain a little bit of context and then bring the vocal back in as the B section. So like this drop now becomes basically this, right? And then this section uses the grab the hook file from the same splice pack. I don't know what that means. This vocal's from a splice pack, I'm assuming. Anyway, yeah, I think that would be that would be better because then we have a chance to we don't have a chance to miss the vocal. It's just always there.
Me from breaking. Say my name, say my name. Come and save me from breaking. Say my name.
Okay, Lost Wave, you have submitted it in the wrong channel and you have submitted it in the wrong format. You gotta submit it in the feedback stream. Oops, sorry. Jesus, hold on. You got to submit it here, feedback stream May 15th, and then you need to put it as like a file I can download. I don't want to click links.
Say my name, say my name. Say my name, say my name. Say my name, say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side, don't make me wait. Say my name, say my name, say my name.
Yeah, I definitely think that this vocal, it sounds great. I would use it in the build-ups, in the verses, you know, but during the drops, I'd find a way of almost like Jack U. Listen to some Jack U tracks and maybe put it up an octave, cut it up, chop it up, make a new hook out of it. Do something that doesn't just have the vocal, because it just kind of seems like the vocal has been carpet bombed across the whole track. Okay, you have now submitted in the correct place, but you have still submitted a link. I don't want a link. Submit something I can download. Let's keep going.
Stay by your side, make me wait. Say my name, say my name, say my name. to make me wait. Say my name, say my name, say my name. It's getting late, I wanna stay by your side to make me wait. Say my name, say my name, say my name.
Everything that's here it's great. I like the vocal. I like the groove. I like the mix. I just don't like how you're using the vocal relentlessly. You know, like I want a break from the vocal at some point. The vocal is fucking sick. Sounds great, but it just is there too often. Just one per person. It's sick though. The mix, the production. I'm not sure why you have all of this headroom. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you're kind of giving up free real estate for no reason here. So I'd probably do that. But yeah, I think it's sick. Just try to keep in mind that the vocal, when it's that repetitive, and I know this is coming from, I mean, I annoy myself with my own songs. So this is coming from you're preaching to the choir here. But anyway, yeah, try to get away from the vocal, cut it up, do something interesting, and lean into the groove of the track and the production and the music, and then use the vocal on top of that. Okay, moving on. Smocks, one song per person, per week, per stream. Okay, this one's called Spacification. So far, this song could fit on a floppy disk. This kind of makes me feel like I'm laying face down on a massage table wondering if I should have kept my underwear on. Oh, what's this? What's this click? What was not there? The click? Yeah, there definitely is something clicking there now. You're right. I don't remember where it was now, but I like this. This is very nice. I think that one thing that I would do is you have this kind of square wave thing coming in, and I'd maybe start like bringing it in a little sooner, because the one thing that I'm a little bit cognizant of with this track is that it just, I know that it's like it's supposed to be very atmospheric, and it is. And I know it's not supposed to be exciting per se, and that's fine. But I do find that it's just needs a little bit more stuff going on to like hold my attention to really enjoy the lushness. Now, I don't want stuff that's like a break beat or anything like that. I don't think it needs that per se. But I think just more stuff. Even like some kind of glitchy atmospheric things happening that's getting more and more intense as it's getting towards the end of the track, like some like crispy kind of like IDM, like listen to some IDM tracks of this. Had no clue how to fix it. It's the top part twisted and opened up the high mids and started clicking. I don't know how to help you, dude. That's you're gonna have to diagnose that yourself. But yeah, I would it's starting to get a bit more like bright and complex and a bit more exciting towards the end. And I feel like if you just had this is kind of okay, here, I'm gonna demonstrate this. Oh, that was a jump scare. So this is kind of like your energy and complexity meter. You know, and then it starts to, you know, and maybe what I would do is maybe have it more like this. Maybe it gets to a spot, and then maybe it starts, and then it kind of crescendos a little bit more as it gets to the end. But then the real thing that I'm interested in is this distance. How much more information and how much more texture and storytelling can you do with sounds earlier on in the track without overcoming the lushness and chillness of it. Like I don't want you to overproduce it. I don't want you to overcomplicate it. But I do think that there's still some real estate available in the song to do a bit more storytelling with some atmospheric sounds, with some other elements that are kind of in the distance that are getting closer. And I think what you have here is a really good start to a very nice atmospheric kind of track. But I definitely I'd like to have just a little bit more stuff happening in the track earlier on. As it gets towards the end, I'm starting to feel more like, oh, okay, we have this like square wave thing. Yeah, I can do that. Stu, no worries. Anyway, yeah, that's what I would do. I think it sounds really great. I'd fix that one click somehow, and then I'd probably try to just get a little bit more, like I said, storytelling. You've established a vibe, you've established an atmosphere, but the storytelling, the first kind of storytelling element that comes in is when you switch the chord down to that other chord. Now all of a sudden there's some tension and there's intrigue and we almost conflict. There's something happening, and then it goes back and forth, right? And then the next element of storytelling is that square wave. I don't know if that was a very good impression of the square wave, but yeah. And I just think that you could probably put a little bit more storytelling in it. I don't know. I think I've exceeded my budget of the word storytelling for today. So, okay. I'm going to bounce later. Okay. So which one is yours, Stu? Oh, okay. It's right there. Okay, here we go. Oh, you weren't lying. This one's called Deep Like That.
Oi, I'm deep like that. I'm deep like that. I'm deep like that. I'm deep like that. I'm deep like that.
Okay, this is pretty cool. I will say that this caught me off guard,
Oi, I'm deep like that.
but I don't know, maybe a little reverse into that might help. Just a really quick half a second. You know? The next thing is, I wonder when you get to this section, what if you treated this without the drums? Maybe a kick drum on the initial hit, the big, you know, Tyrannosaurus Rex synthesizer scream thing. And then I'm deep like that, and then come in with the beat or something like that. I think you could do like a Rayhem fake out, which could be cool. And maybe this entire thing is a build up based on more so the bass sounds and less having a beat there, and maybe thin it out towards the end and then hit us with the beat or something like that. But to me, this doesn't necessarily sound like the drop. I wonder if I can do this. Yeah, I totally get that. It's just kind of like a rough idea right now, but I think it's sick. Like I really do like it. What's the tempo? 130? Yeah, okay. So now, what's it sound like if I do this?
I'm deep like that. Oi, I'm deep like that.
Hold on.
I'm deep like that.
So like that without the drums, and maybe have a reverb tail off of the big kind of biological warfare synth that's going on here. Whatever. Actually, biological warfare, I think, was a synth that I bought at some point. But regardless, imagine that without the drums, and then having a reverb tail kind of carry over. You might even cut it here, let the reverb tail over.
I'm deep like that.
And then build and treat this more of a build up, and then figure out what to do with the drop. I think that you're going to have a much better time instead of trying to make this the drop. This could potentially work as like a B drop, but I feel like if you want it to hit harder, especially considering the name of the track, Deep Like That, I would maybe, you know how like Girthquake has like an anti-drop kind of, where it goes to like really bassy, but not a whole lot of top end information. Maybe you could drop like that and then end up here as the B drop. But that, I don't know. There's just some ideas. Yeah, that's what I think. I think it sounds dope. I think it's a great start. And I like the title and the dialogue and the synths and the way that it sounds and the way that it looks on my screen. I like everything about it except the length and the fact that it needs probably a drop. Okay, cool. You got to go soon. I don't even know which one yours was. Oh, I don't know yet. Okay. Okay, this one's called I Don't Know Yet. Okay, so we've already kind of outlived that kind of section. It sounds like we're just going to hear it again, and I don't really think that's the move. What's the tempo here? 175? 174. So with that synth in the background, that like the melody, I feel like it's mixed a bit insecurely. Like it's so quiet. And it's a square wave, and a square wave as a lead sound always kind of has a bit of lightheartedness, I find anyway. I would try that lead with a sawtooth instead of a square wave, and see if you like it better. Because like I said, a square wave kind of has like a lightheartedness to it. Like it's not very serious. It's kind of silly, maybe not necessarily childish, but it's got kind of like a light youthfulness to it. When you hear a square lead, it's kind of like silly or something, right? But if you just change that to a sawtooth wave instead of a square wave, all of a sudden it doesn't have that silly vibe to it anymore, at least in my opinion. So I would probably, especially when you have the glide, ooey, ooey, like that when you're gliding from one note to another, the glide also has a kind of silly lightheartedness vibe to it when it's being done in that way. So you're kind of doubling up on the silliness vibe by having a square wave solo lead sound that glissandos or whatever. It slides from one note to the next. I would try a sawtooth, and I'd probably mix it louder in the track, because right now it's just kind of like all the elements kind of sound like they're just like kind of like hiding in the shadows. And maybe that's okay for the intro, but that's the vibe it's giving me so far. Now, I feel like the lead sound is maybe too loud, or maybe it's not being sidechained. Maybe it should be side. To me, it sounds like you have like your track, and then you have that lead sound on top of the track. It doesn't necessarily feel integrated with the rest of all the other elements in the song. And I think bringing it down in volume and potentially maybe it is sidechained. I can't really tell if. I don't think it is. And if it is, it's not sidechained a whole lot. So I would try sidechaining it and trying to get it to sit in the mix a little bit better, instead of, because right now it kind of sounds like you have two files that have been added together. You have like your track, and then you have that lead sound, and it sounds like it's just kind of been superimposed on top of the track. It's not interacting with the other stuff. So sidechaining, what that will do, besides, like the utility part of it, which is to make room for the kick and snare to be really loud without clipping the master or anything like that. That's the utility part of it. But the other thing it does is it gives a relationship between the elements. When the kick hits and you hear that lead duck intentionally, and when the snare hits and you hear the lead duck intentionally, then there's a relationship. There's kind of an implied relationship between the lead sound and the kick and snare, which are causing it to dip in volume every time they hit. So it kind of like it glues them together. People say glue, you glue it together. Well, what does that really mean? That goes beyond sidechaining. If you're compressing, there's the compressor called like the glue or something, glue compressor, whatever. The people used to use it probably 10 years ago a lot. I don't know if they still do. Anyway, when you glue things together, what does that actually mean? Well, it means that they interact with each other. There's causality. There's something happens with this element and it affects this element. They're not just both existing on their own planes of existence and not talking to each other. So to me, that's what gluing things together with a compressor does. Because if you send in multiple, say you have a bunch of percussive sounds, like bongos and a shaker and claps and all kinds of percussive stuff, and you send them all into a compressor, now all of a sudden, whenever a big bongo hit happens, things get ducked. The shaker gets ducked a little bit. So the shaker's reacting to the bongo hit. And this is kind of an obscure reference that I'm just kind of pulling out of my ass right now, but I hope you understand what I mean. Like the compressor is causing things to have effects on each other, which glues them together and makes them sound like they're coming from the same place, or makes them sound like they're existing in the same plane of existence. Superimpose a third eye on my forehead. Anyway, let's keep going. I'd probably low pass this super saw, because when I'm listening to it, it's just like, oh, there's 4 or 5 sawtooth waveforms that aren't all kind of tuned to the same note exactly. You know, I find that it's just kind of like too static of a sound to hear it kind of buzzing, you know? And then you could also, if you low pass that to like your typical, almost like Reese super saw low pass bass sound, detuned bass sound, you could use that as a lever to pull to change things. So maybe at the start of this build up, the low pass is very low, and then it starts opening it up. I know that's such a new novel thing that nobody's ever done before, but people do it a lot for a reason, because it kind of tells a story. It starts explaining that we're moving towards something in the song. Right now, you're playing the chord progression on this detuned sawtooth, but there's no evolution. There's nothing changing. There's nothing growing. We're almost waiting for the next section. We're not enjoying the section we're in. And when I say we, I'm just talking about myself, because I don't even know if anybody else even exists. Because here, I'll do another snipping tool thing. This is kind of the energy. So like, boom. And then maybe there's a small, I don't even know if there's a little, and then, you know, I'm assuming here. So this is kind of how your energy is it's kind of stair stepping up. Whereas there's other ways to do this, but even just if you low pass that bass and you were slowly ramping it up like that, you could see now we have a bit, instead of, let me see, hold on. Eraser tool. There we go. So the problem with stair stepping like this is I'm going to switch to a red pen, and you can't even see what I'm doing because I'm not in the right spot. There we go. So the problem with having a stair step kind of growth to this buildup is that from here to here, we're just kind of waiting. There's nothing really changing. We're just waiting. And then from here to here, again, we're just waiting. And all of the excitement that happens just happens in this one moment, and just happens at this one moment, and just happens at this one moment, and just happens at this one moment. So we're kind of waiting for this one moment every 8 bars or however many bars it is. We're waiting for that one moment. Whereas if you were slowly opening a filter up, all of a sudden we're like, ooh, there's something's happening. You know, like, oh, where are we going with this? And the opening the filter up thing is just one example of how you can achieve that. But to get away from the stair step, now you're still going to end up with some stair step shape to it, because obviously when you bring in this you know, like you might be slowly opening the bass up, and then there could be a big jump up here because now we have drums, and then again there could be a big jump up here because now we have whatever this is, and then obviously a big jump up here. But you can see now, if you think of it from you know, like a 8-bar section at a time, now we have movement within this 8 bars. We have something that's changing and drawing our attention and creating tension and creating interest. And where are we going with this? You know, what's happening right now? So anyway, I don't know, that was kind of obscure, but I hope that it made sense. Let's keep listening. I would say that if you listen to the kick drum and the bass, I don't think your mix is that great down on the bottom end right now with that, because I think what you should do is solo the kick and the sub bass, and don't listen to anything else, and try to get the kick and the sub bass to feel better together. The kick is just kind of a minuscule little, like I almost hear like the transient more than anything. I don't know if you have side chaining in this at all. Is there side chaining? I can't quite tell. If there is, I don't think you're really doing it enough, because right here, this just kind of sounds like a bass synth with a song underneath of it, you know? So there is side chaining. Okay. But do you hear how thick and full that bass is? And then the kick is just kind of like a... No, you don't. I wouldn't use an electro house kick drum for this style of music per se. But I do find that sometimes if you're getting lost in the mix, and I'm not saying you are, but if for me, when I get lost in a mix, when there's all these elements and I can't get it to sound right, and I can't figure out how to move it closer to the sound I want it to be, I will compartmentalize. So I will just solo the bass and the kick drum. All right. Fuck everything else. Let's figure out how to get the kick and the bass drum to feel right together, so that when the kick hits, it's almost like the bass is like the tail of the kick. You know what I mean? And then once you get that down right, then maybe you go and you focus on the percussive stuff. Get them to sound right. And then maybe you try to get the bass and the synth to sound right together. And now you've now instead of attacking like 100 tracks at a time, you have almost like buses that you can work with. Okay, this is the percussive bus. This is the leads bus. This is the bass bus. You know, and it's just an easier way to, it's kind of like taking smaller bites at the mix instead of trying to solve the whole thing at once. I think the melody is good. I think that the production and the mix is probably where you should focus on right now. But anyway, I like what you did. Good job. Keep going. Okay. This one is called, I'm going to say garage. I don't know if that's right, but that's what I'm going to say.
More life. Blessings. Yeah, man. Respect our manners. Respect our manners. More fire. More fire.
Okay, this is sick. I think that your snare / side stick / clap, whatever this is, that could probably be louder. Like, I wouldn't say like a lot louder, but I wouldn't say a little louder either. Like medium louder.
More fire. Yeah, man. More life. Blessings, blessings. Yeah, man. Respect our manners. Respect our manners. More fire. More fire. Proper, proper. What? Yeah, man. More life. Blessings, blessings. Yeah, man. Respect our manners. Respect our manners. More fire. More fire. Proper, proper. What? Yeah, man. More life. Blessings, blessings. Yeah, man. Respect our manners. Respect our manners. More fire. More fire. Proper, proper. What? Yeah, man.
So, yeah, I mean, like, I get the style of garage. I almost feel like there's something to me about this that I really like the groove. I got white boy hat arrangement. I don't know what that means necessarily. I don't know if he's referring to the hi-hats, but that's kind of what I'm about to talk about. I found that there was no clear kind of like, I don't want to say drop per se, but there's no clear like main part of the song. And I think that you have those hi-hats. I think that you have that top loop kind of going the entire song.
Blessings. Yeah, man. Respect our manners. Respect our manners. Yeah, man.
So I don't really know how to address that necessarily because this is such a it's one of those genres that uh it doesn't necessarily follow the rules of like build up, drop, drop section, second drop section, breakdown, build up, build up, build up, drop, drop, drop. Like so I hesitate to try and force it into a box that it doesn't belong in. But I do find that the whole track to me, it just kind of felt like the same energy level. And I'm trying to wonder, I'm wondering how you could get away from that without losing the groove throughout the song. Because to me, the first thing I go to is I'm like, okay, well, if it sounds like the same energy pretty much the whole time, then what is going the entire time that doesn't change? And then I thought, well, that top loop,
More life, blessings, blessings.
I mean, I guess it drops out during some sections, but like anytime there's a section that I would consider like a main drop section, that is always going. Is there any way that we could maybe get rid of that for certain sections and or maybe elaborate on it halfway through a drop, some sort of shaker or some other garage style percussive thing could be happening? I'm not quite sure. I really like this track. I think I think the groove is really good, and I'm not upset with the fact that the groove kind of stays the same groove the whole time, but I'm thinking more along lines of like the energy of it. It just kind of seems like it builds up, it hits, and then it just maintains a constant energy throughout most of the track. A couple technical things, this bass, that kind of Reese bass thing, I feel like it's maybe a little loud, just in general. Like you could probably take that track and drop it by a few decibels and go harder on the master. I think it might be
More life, blessings, blessings. Yeah, man, respect our manners, respect.
I don't know if it's necessarily the loudest thing.
Yeah, man.
It certainly sounds louder. I think it's because your main sub bass is so deep and it might be just as loud amplitude wise, but this has more high frequency content like mid range.
Yeah, man.
It's perceived loudness. Yeah. So the perceived loudness of that synth, and you can kind of see too, like amplitude wise, it's always I think that you've maybe gone too far. I would drop it a bit and try to maybe control the dynamics of the track a little bit better so that you can push the overall volume a bit much. It is quite soft, like the track itself doesn't achieve much overall volume. Again, the genre, we're not putting it up against a dubstep track, per se. But I don't know. To me, it's a cool, I really like the track, honestly. I just think with a few tweaks in terms of how you ebb and flow the energy throughout the track, as well as potentially turning that bass down a little bit, and then bringing everything else up to fill in the kind of the spaces a little bit more. I wonder if you could have like a ding or like some sort of bright element at some point throughout the track. I feel like all the elements in this are just basses. I know you kind of have that like sustained string thing, but I don't really that's kind of like a background element. So maybe if there's like some sort of stab or some brighter element to play off of, then that would give you another kind of tool in your toolbox to modulate the energy of the track. So maybe play around with like, what's another element? Like listen to some tracks in this style. What kind of stabs do they use? Maybe that'll give you some ideas. But I do think that besides the vocal, it's really just the two basses, right? They got like keys and stuff. I don't know, like it's pretty good as is, honestly, but I think that you could probably get it to be a bit better. To me, the biggest thing is just the energy feeling a little bit stagnant over the course of the song. So however you want to interpret that. Okay, cool. Let's move on. We got Ersty Fuss Rebuilded. That's interesting. Okay, before we go any further, I like this so far. I like all the interesting stuff that's happening, like atmosphere-wise and whatnot. I feel like if there was some way of just teasing that vocal a little bit in the start, whether it's like really verbed out in the background or like cut up or something, or even just a reverse, like at a bare minimum, a little reverse reverb into the vocal. I think that would be nice to kind of introduce us to the tonality of the vocal, so that when it hits, we're already a little bit familiar with it, and we can more so focus on the words and the melody of what she's singing. Yeah, I think like teasing just a little, like the little tease of the vocal at the start would be good.
Sometimes we fuss and we fight and we feel like it's all just for nothing. So how do we change it up so we can get over love?
Wow. After that drop, I feel like I inexplicably know how to do jujitsu. I really like this drop. It's super cool. I did find that. Okay, so here's the thing. You have this super sick drop, right? In terms of sound design and just the drop is great. I don't think I'd change anything about the drop. But I think that you're kind of selling it a little short because there wasn't really any build up to it. Like I wasn't like chomping at the bit for the drop. I didn't want it enough. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, this is sick. But I was kind of like pleasantly surprised instead of like, finally, you gave me this thing that I wanted the entire intro. You know what I mean? So I feel like you didn't necessarily do it justice with any sort of buildup. And I'm not saying that you need to turn this into like the most typical, snare, like not like that per se, but get creative and figure out a way of like getting us excited for this moment instead of just giving us this moment. Like, make us want the drop. I don't think that the way it stands right now makes. I knew the drop was coming because of the waveform, but I wasn't like right before it happened. I wasn't like, oh my fuck, I can't wait for this drop. This kind of also reminds me of Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo. Yeah, it's sick. Like the drop section is sick. I thought it was gonna go. This kind of reminds me of Tennyson a little bit. I will say if I had to nitpick, the trumpet sound is probably a little not as convincing as it could be. Also, it seems as though my FL Studio has potentially crashed. So I think whatever you've done, my computer did not like it, even though I did. We'll give it 15 more seconds. So that last section is pretty wacky. I'm not upset with it though. I think it's cool. I better take a screenshot of what tracks I have left because I feel like when I close this, it's going to, it's not gonna load the tracks in the same order. That was the worst clip I've ever done. There we go. Okay, here we go. Get ready to be jump scared by my desktop. There we go. How many times did I just say there we go? Da 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 da. It was pretty. It was very jazzy. I don't. Initially, I'm kind of like, this is quite a departure from the song, but I think it's okay. I think it is a departure from the song, but I think that that's okay. Thank you for your patience. I really should clean up this project file. Good thing I did the thing. Oh, I gotta stop doing that. Okay, bring this back over and rearrange. So we were at Ersty and then Forever. Ersty, yeah. Forever. Bear with me for a second. Forever Ever Birdie. Okay, Ersty, yeah. We did Chord. We did Pluribus. Forever. We did Raham. C'est quoi ça? Here's some of my works. You can if you look up FWLR on Spotify. C'est quoi ça? That goes there. Smocks. And then Soul Passion. There we go. All right, we're back. We're so back. Okay. Oops. Where were we? Yeah, out of all of the kind of like the real instruments, we'll say, in this jazz section, this trumpet is just, I'm not sold. I also don't really like the notes it's playing. I think you could just maybe delete that and the song might be better. Wow. So the first drop taught me how to do jujitsu, and the second drop did my corporate taxes for me. So thank you. This is an interesting art piece. I feel like the way that it flows arrangement-wise is a little clunky. It's a little weird, but maybe that's okay for the style of music. To me, it sounds like three separate pieces of music, you know, and they may be related in many ways. But to me, we didn't make it back here. And I just wonder, I'm not saying this is the way it is. I'm not even saying this is the way that I think that it is. I just wonder if the track would be better if it was slightly more repetitive to the point where we got something that we were familiar with. You know what I mean? Like you've got all these kind of almost experimental sections, but if you did experimental stuff, but it referenced or it came back to like this drop again or some variation on this drop, it might feel a bit more like a cohesive song rather than three really interesting musical ideas. But if it's kind of a conceptual piece and it's not really designed to be a typical kind of, I guess, color-based song, then maybe it's fine as is. It's really, I mean, you're the artist. I'm just listening to it and telling you what my brain says to me, which means that my brain is not me. I don't know how that works. Anyway, I thought it was really cool, and I hope that my random thoughts help in some small way. Okay, this one is called Forever by Everbirdie, or it's Everbirdie by Forever. Oh, did you hear that? There's a click. There's that click again. I wonder if it's in the effects. There's a swoosh effect. By the way, you used the same swoosh effect twice in a row, which is kind of a bit of a faux pas if you ask me. It just... I can almost guarantee you that click is at the start of that effects swoosh sound. But you should almost never use like the exact same swoosh sound twice in a row, because it doesn't convey a sense of progress. It doesn't make us feel like we're moving into the track more. Now, most people would never notice that you use this. Nobody would be like, oh, that swoosh sound is the same. But subconsciously, it subtracts from the overall feeling of movement, in my opinion. So I would avoid using the same one twice, especially if it has a click at the very start. The melody is similar to the melody on Donkey Kong Country, The Underwater. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but I think it's that one. Now, I will say that unless you're planning on having vocals, there's kind of not enough happening in the track to justify like a full minute of this. We got like chords, we get kind of a melody, but the melody doesn't necessarily go very far. It kind of starts out and then it kind of seems like it plays the same note for a while. So it feels a bit like an incomplete melody. I like the way that it's sounding and flowing, but to me, it's missing like the main thing. And whether that's vocals or maybe that melody could be elaborated on a bit more and played a little bit more upfrontly. But anyway, let's keep going. You know what's funny? Your hi-hat, see that little vertical line? That's your hi-hat and on the wave candy. And it sounds just like a little tiny bit of knock, like from when you're tuning an engine, it sounds. When I heard it, I was like, that sounds like knock. And then I look over and it's in like the 10 to 15 kilohertz range. Anyway. This is really good. This drop sounds really good melodically. I think that like overall production wise, it could be a lot like louder. Like the mix sounds fine. I think it's just a matter of like pushing it a bit harder in the master. Although the more I hear that hi-hat, the more it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb to me. It's such a specific frequency. It's so short and it doesn't blend in with the rest of the track. It's like this little tick that's happening on top of the song. If you listen specifically to it. Do you hear what I mean though? That melody sounds like it's going to be a good melody, but then you kind of like lose steam and just start playing like the same notes over and over. It's like do 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 do. So I'd maybe try to elaborate on that melody a bit more, because I think you're off to a great start. I think the melody sounds like it's going to be a great melody, but then it just starts playing the same notes. And I would try a different hi-hat. I do think that hi-hat is just too tiny, minuscule, and stands out from the rest of the sound, the sonic character of the rest of the song. That one little tiny it just sticks out, and it makes the track, it almost makes the track sound even quieter than it is, because that tick is kind of so loud above the rest of the track, and it's such a small element, yet it seems like it's maybe the loudest, like to our ears, that might stick out the most over top of the rest of the track. So if like your hi-hat is like the loudest sounding part of the track, then it tells you probably have quite a bit of headroom left to push the other stuff. I like the drop section. I like a lot of the stuff that's in here, but I think I would probably start by figuring out that melody, the melody and the breakdown, because that's probably going to drive the rest of the song. It seems like it's the main melody. Now in the drop, we have a different melody. They're complementary. There's kind of like melody A and melody B, but they feel related. This one just feels unfinished. So try finishing that, maybe swap out the hi-hat and push the master harder to see. I wouldn't go way over the top, but you definitely could make this quite a bit louder, and I think it needs to be for this style of music. Okay, this one is French. C'est quoi ça? Okay, this is very, very strange, and I mostly mean that as a compliment. One thing I would do for this section, if this is, I believe, is what we're going to consider potentially the drop, is I would get rid of your harpsichord, at least initially, and get a sub bass. You can see that there's really no sub involved here. It's mostly just like, it sounds like the bass has been high passed. I would take the harpsichord out and make this drop, at least off the start of it, make the drop more about the drums and the bass sound. And then you can bring the harpsichord back in. But I think you should focus the start of the drop on just like, how can I get this to hit as hard as possible with the drums and the bass alone? And then the rest can be added as gravy. But yeah, you got basically no sub in this. Except occasionally right here, there's like a reverse kick drum or something. Like we get a sudden, if you watch, let me turn on instantaneous. And then watch the very bottom down here. Let me turn off average. Oh, hold on. There we go. See how there's like no sub until that one little reverse kick in? Yeah, this is like really weird and strange and unique. So I would definitely commend you on that, but you need sub bass to make this work. There needs to be that bottom octave, like the down here. I never know which one. Probably not this one. Maybe. Okay, so what key are we in? It's on the screen. Yeah, sorry, the commands don't work. Okay, so it's E. So like me just playing random kind of notes in the right key-ish, like even just me doing, let me change the, there we go. And maybe get rid of this. Okay. Whatever, I'm not doing a good job, but you see what I mean. It's missing that frequency range. We're not getting the deepness. And I think that would go a long way. And I think if you strip down the start of the drop and it was more about the bass and the drums, and then you bring in the harpsichord as like, hey guys, it's still that song, but now we got a cool beat and bass going on. Besides that, it's really strange. And I do like it. Add sub. Okay. Smocks. I'm not sure that it's worth, I'm not sure it's worth putting your tag that way. It's hard on the ears. Maybe if you mixed it in a little, I mean, because like, you know, you and I know what's going on, but the majority of people would just be like, what the fuck is that weird sound? Yeah, like I can appreciate it. But a normal listener would just be like, what was that, you know, and not necessarily in a good way. Now you could maybe hide it, you know, somewhere. But it's just, when you play it like this, oof, that's hard on the ears. It's such a high frequency. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, you also have a tag in the audio as well. So to me, this sounds like, I don't know what the actual style is, but it sounds like church trap, not like Christian trap, but I don't know if it's just like the brass and the bells, or like Halloween trap. Anyway, I'm going to listen to the song. Okay, so yeah, this is cool. I know that like having the kick drum ultra distorted is like a thing that is a thing. I still think that it's maybe over the top a little bit in this, you know, but then you listen to like car edit music and it's the entire master bus sounds like it was put through a fucking distortion pedal. So I get it. I'm an old man and maybe I'm just being a cranky old man, but I think that your kick drum is a little loud. If you're going to have your kick drum that loud, I would probably have your snare that loud, because now we just kind of, the rhythm is almost entirely made up of like the kick drum pattern. The snare almost is mixed in with like the hi-hats. But I always like to have the kick and the snare be comparable to each other in terms of their power and their presence in the mix. And right now it's almost just like do, 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 do. And the snare is just kind of a little like underneath. Yeah, I mean, it's not like minuscule. It's not maybe as bad as I just made it sound, but it's still, I don't know. What if you like distorted your snare drum a bit to make it match the kick drum? I just feel like if you have a kick and a snare that really play off of each other, then the rhythm section of the track is just always much better when you have like kick, snare, kick, snare. And like the rhythm is made up of those two elements mostly. And I just think that your snare is a bit underrepresented compared to how fucking loud your kick drum is. Yeah, I think I want it to be less distorted too. I think it would still go hard. I don't think you're going to lose hardness. I don't really like to use that sentence, but I don't think it's going to be a softer beat if it's not distorted all to fuck. I mean, like just as an experiment, just like mix it. Like, what if this was not, I don't know what the style is. What if this was smoother trap? Like, just reduce the loudness of your kick in 808 a little bit. I hate saying 808, but you know what I mean. Maybe just, I don't know. Again, I'm trying to not just be a cranky old man and be like, that's incorrect. It's distorting on the master bus. Like, I get it. Like, I get the style and that's part of it. But I think it might just be a little overdone. Like, maybe pull it back 15% and push the snare up 15%. You know what I mean? And you might find that all of a sudden it hits harder because now the rest of the track still exists when the bass is going. You know, as opposed to right now when the 808 bass is playing, the rest of the track kind of disappears. Like the rest of the track takes a big step back and then it's like, hey, I'm here again in between the 808 hits. I don't know. I think my only suggestion, my real suggestion is to turn the snare up and make it hit at least almost as hard as the kick drum. But really, I would think you should pull the kick and 808 down 15% and push the snare up to match it. I think that's what I'm going to say. Besides that, it's a cool kind of spooky trap beat. And I like it. Okay, cool. Let's check out, we've got a couple left. This one's Soul Passivation, okay, by Fusion Beats.
It's not the same as me. He has thoughts and his actions are becoming mine.
Okay, yeah, it sounds pretty good so far. It's very energetic, high energy. Now, I noticed something. I felt like the bass range of the track in general was just too loud. And if you look at the frequency analyzer over here, okay, so see how you kind of have like, this is like your bass, and then this is like the rest of your song. And I heard that before I saw it. That's why I went over and adjusted to make it show the average instead. So I would probably, I'm not sure if this could be something you're doing almost intentionally, whether it's a good idea or not. You might have like done something in your master bus to boost these low frequencies. But I think what you should do instead is bring them down to match the rest and then bring the whole track up in volume. Because if you look at it, I mean, like you've got quiet for this style of music. I'm not suggesting that you make this, a solid brick, but you're giving up quite a bit of real estate in between like the kick and the bass hits. And I think that's related to this kind of shape that you have with this, like, if we look at the numbers here instead of just intuitively looking at it, let's average this out somewhere around maybe minus 17 dB. And then we're going to average this out around 30. So, yeah, like this is a significant difference in volume. The difference is about 13 decibels, and 13 decibels is a significant amount. So, volume all over the place. Look at the waveform further on. Oops. Oh, yeah, wow, okay. All right, well, if you're already aware of it, then great. I just noticed that it sounded a little muffled to me. Like the track sounded muffled, but it was strange because it had high frequency. It had like the airiness, but it just felt shelved. It didn't feel low passed. It didn't feel like it was missing high frequencies. It just felt like the bass, and not just the sub bass, but like the low mids as well, because I would consider kind of like, this is kind of low mids in this area, and you can see you still have a bit of a bump, and that's usually where like your muddiness is, lives in this kind of low mid range, like second harmonic up. So yeah, I'd look into that. Let's keep going. I'm also not familiar with the original song, so I can't really comment on like its merit as a remix per se. You've been struggling to get the bass to punch through phone speakers. Yeah, that's a phone speaker problem. No, you're never going to get the bass to sound good on a phone speaker. What you can do is there's harmonics. That's what cuts through. So you kind of have rom, like that's your bass, and you need to, it's kind of muffled just because it's the low pass filters. You're never going to get those frequencies to come through on the phone speaker, right? So the best you can usually do is just harmonics based on that. And there's all kinds of different ways of adding harmonics. But I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily prioritize making this song sound good on a phone, especially if it's going to compromise how it sounds on a set of speakers or headphones, which is really what most people that really want to listen to this song are going to listen to it on, right? Particularly we get this song, the next song. Okay. Tinkerbell, we're all filled up for today. I got to head out of the studio here shortly, but am I going to be here next Friday? I might be out of town next Friday. I do it every week, except if I'm out of town, then I usually don't do it unless I'm like at a studio or something. But yeah, if I'm not, every Friday, unless I'm out of town. But you can also throw stuff on the server throughout the week and get other people's opinions. I just do the stream once a week. I wonder if your sub bass should be sustaining. It's right now it's kind of going dun 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 dun. I wonder if it should just be sustaining underneath the track here. It might fill the track out a bit better.
You dare think of me as a parasite? You're going to think twice about that. You'll see.
I like how you incorporated like the build up snare in there, the boom ta 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 ta. Okay, so you got some like sound design basses in the background. I don't think that that's the type of sound that you put in the track subtly. I feel like you either put that sound in the fucking track or it's not in the track. I don't think you have like a growl bass sound that's like pushed way into the background. This kind of reminds me of like a Mega Man soundtrack. Honestly, I think this right here is the coolest part of the track. It's the most like well-defined, like here, this song, that part sounds the most unique. The rest of it sounds good. It sounds kind of, you know, Dance Dance Revolution, kind of high energy, almost psy-trancey, but I don't know, I think it's actually called NRG, like the style of music. But to me, this sounds like the drop. Or not that, wherever it is here. And then maybe these sections, maybe these sections are like the B drop, like the part that comes after that. But to me, that's the most striking part of the song is this right here. And it seems like it was just kind of not necessarily an afterthought, but it's just like the ending of the song. I wonder what the track would be like if you incorporated that as a more of a main part of the song. And maybe there's reasons to not do that because it's a remix and for a remix challenge or something. I don't know. But to me, when it got to that part, I was like, oh, this is cool. The rest of it, I was like, okay, this is cool. But that part, I was like, oh, this is cool. So I don't know, you know, what you will do with that information, but I think it's worth at least experimenting with, you know, maybe it drops with that and then it elaborates into, I think that would be more of a bold kind of move on the production side of things. But I also like this section because it really does remind me of like a Mega Man X soundtrack song, which I love. I love Mega Man sound. Mega Man and F-Zero have like the best soundtracks for the Super Nintendo. Fight me. Okay, cool. That's what I think. I think it's cool, and I hope that helps. This one is called Calm Upbeat. Okay, so when it finally gets into it, I'm digging this musically. The first part, I kind of had a hard time just figuring out what was happening. I feel like there was like a seventh chord on top of a seventh chord with some musical note added that I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you what it is. And I just had a hard time following it, both kind of chord progression. I don't know. I didn't love the intro, but once it got here, all of a sudden I could follow it musically. And I don't know. I don't know what you would do with this information, but personally, in my opinion, the intro, it didn't really introduce the song. It just kind of feels a little arbitrary. Like, here's a strange beat, and now here's the actual beat. You know, like I don't see how the intro ties in with the rest of the song so far. Maybe it'll make sense further on, but if you need to listen further into the track to make the intro make sense, then it's not really going to work because we can't travel back in time yet. I mean, you have so many other great elements in here to make an intro. I mean, like, take the drums out. There's your intro. I think that all this stuff that I'm listening to right here, it sounds great. And if you just took out the beat and the bass and left like it's kind of like an electric piano and there's some other stuff in there. I don't think your intro has to be any more crazy than just some maybe variation on that. In variation maybe in terms of the notes that are being played, the octave that it's being played in, the sonic treatment or filtering that's happening. I don't think you need to be more elaborate with the intro, especially if you're planning on putting vocals on it. Then you might just have like this like electric piano part with the vocals, and then the fucking beat comes in, and then that's the intro, right? But anyway, I'm liking everything I'm hearing so far except the intro. Yeah, I think so too. I think that sometimes you gotta ask yourself, or at least sometimes I gotta ask myself, when I'm doing something, I'm like, what is the intention here? Am I making this because I think I need to have this section because of reasons? Or am I making this because it serves the song in some way? It sets the listener up. It gives them a hint as to what's coming. It establishes a mood. You know, like, those are good reasons to make an intro. Making an intro because you need an intro is, you know, that's not a good reason. But making an intro because you want to establish the mood, you want to tease at some of the motifs and the themes that are going to happen later on in the track so that the listener is familiar with it and they can get into the groove, and then you hit them with the drums. Those are good reasons to make an intro. I like your snare clap thing, but I think it could come back just a little bit. I don't think it needs to come down a lot, but I feel like it's just a little too loud. It kind of reminds me of like Hotline Miami, like when you're doing the storyline parts, when you're like walking around and like picking up things or whatever. It's kind of I don't know what it is about it. I think it's like a lot. I think a lot of it about it. I think there's multiple reasons why it reminds me of that. I think it's a cool beat, dude. I can't really imagine this with vocals on it, but I'm not saying that vocals wouldn't fit. I'm just having a hard time imagining it with vocals on it. But yeah, I would probably maybe take your intro like this, and then I don't know how you do it in your software, but I just right click and it deletes it. I'm joking. Like, I kind of get it. I maybe it's worth investigating and just tweaking. Because now that I understand what the track sounds like, I can hear it's not completely unrelated. It's just sonically, I'm not sure. It almost is too loud so that when you actually drop into the beat, the energy drops down because this is kind of more bombastic. And then so your intro is more bombastic than the actual beat. It's kind of backwards. So maybe it's not a deleting. Maybe it's a tweaking. Maybe it's a reduction of energy or filter. Maybe take those drums and make them sound like they're coming through a phone and tease a little bit more of the musical elements in the intro or something. I'm not saying you should just ditch it entirely, but to me, it just felt a little disjointed. So that's what I think. But that's just what I think. And what the fuck do I know? Okay, thank you guys for hanging out with me. It's always a pleasure to listen to new music because when I'm listening to music on my own, it's usually just 9 Inch Nails or the Chemical Brothers. I don't really listen to new music very often. So it's nice to hear some new, fresh, and sometimes very unfinished music. Okay, have a good weekend. I love you all, and I will see you potentially next week. I can't remember if I think I'm out of town Friday. Oh my God. Yeah, I think I'm out of town Friday, but I will let you know. Okay, bye.